Part 1. First Contact and Analysis. The collective had existed for millennia, a confederation of 17 advanced species that had long ago divided the stars among themselves. They had explored, conquered, and colonized thousands of worlds across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. Their technology was unmatched, their understanding of the universe profound. They had encountered hundreds of lesser species throughout their history, creatures just beginning to grasp the fundamentals of space travel, would-be galactic citizens that required guidance, protection, and occasionally, subjugation. High Commander Vrexel of the Zilon stood on the observation deck of the Immutable Truth, the most advanced research vessel in the collective fleet. His 8 amber eyes narrowed as he studied the small ship displayed on the view screen. The vessel was crude by collective standards, asymmetrical, inefficient, and seemingly built with no consideration for aesthetic harmony. It was, by all measures, unremarkable. "So this is what the humans send into the void," he said, the translator implant in his thorax converting his clicking speech into the standard collective language. Pitiful. Science Director Elara moved to his side, her slender form gliding across the polished deck. As a Thojan, she possessed an analytical mind renowned throughout the collective. "We detected it crossing the boundary of Sector 9 Gamma 3 cycles ago. It appears to be an exploration vessel, though it possesses primitive weapons." "Humans," Vrexel said, tasting the unfamiliar word. "They've only recently achieved faster-than-light travel, correct?" "Indeed, High Commander. Their civilization has existed for less than 10,000 years. Their unified government for less than 2 centuries. They have yet to colonize beyond their home system. And yet they dare to venture this far into the void." Vrexel's mandibles clicked in amusement. Bold, if foolish. "Their psychological profiles suggest a species driven by curiosity rather than caution," Elara observed. "They seem to value exploration above security." Vrexel considered this for a moment. "Have they detected us?" "No, High Commander. Our cloaking technology exceeds their scanning capabilities by several orders of magnitude." "Good. Prepare a capture team. I want this vessel brought into Holding Bay 3. We will study it, and its occupants, before deciding how to formally introduce ourselves to this species." Elara hesitated. "High Commander, the Council of 17 has not yet decided whether humans are to be contacted or quarantined. Perhaps we should." "The Council takes too long to make decisions," Vrexel interrupted. "And I am tasked with gathering information. How better to understand these creatures than to examine their technology and interrogate their pioneers?" The science director knew better than to argue further. The Zilon were not known for their patience. "As you wish, High Commander. I will make the preparations." Commander Aisha Chen felt the first tremor run through the U.S. Pathfinder as she studied the mysterious energy readings on her console. Something was wrong. The ship's sensors had detected nothing unusual in this sector, empty space aside from a few unremarkable asteroids, yet the energy fluctuations were unmistakable. "Lieutenant Kim, run a full diagnostic on the sensor array," she ordered. "These readings don't make sense." "Already on it, Commander," the young officer replied, his fingers flying over the holographic interface. "But the system checks out. Whatever we're detecting, it's real." The ship shuddered again, more violently this time. "Status report," Chen barked. "Unknown energy field surrounding the ship," Chief Engineer Paddle reported from engineering. "It's interfering with our propulsion systems. We're losing power to the engines." "Shields up. Evasive maneuvers," Chen commanded, years of academy training kicking in. "No effect, Commander," the helmsman replied, his voice tight with tension. "The field is intensifying. We're being pulled somewhere." Chen felt her stomach drop as the Pathfinder lurched sideways, caught in an invisible grip. The stars on the view screen began to shift as the ship moved against its will. "Send a distress signal to Earth Command," she ordered. "Priority Alpha. Include all sensor data." "Communications are down," Lieutenant Kim reported, his face pale. We're completely cut off. Chen's mind raced. First contact protocols were clear. Attempt peaceful communication. Avoid hostile action. Maintain ship integrity. But whoever or whatever had ensnared the Pathfinder hadn't bothered with introductions. Arm photon torpedoes, she decided. If we can't break free, we'll give them something to remember us by. Commander, Lieutenant Kim interrupted, his voice suddenly hushed. Something's declocking directly ahead. The view screen shifted, and Chen felt her breath catch. A massive vessel had appeared before them, so large that it dwarfed the Pathfinder like an aircraft carrier would a kayak. Its design was unlike anything in Earth's database, all sweeping curves and impossible angles that seemed to bend light around them. My God, someone whispered on the bridge. Chen squared her shoulders. Record everything. If we don't make it back, Earth needs to know what we found out here. The capture went smoothly, from the collective's perspective. The human vessel's primitive weapons, nuclear-tipped missiles and directed energy weapons, were neutralized before they could even be deployed. The ship was brought into the Immutable Truth's vast holding bay, where it now sat, looking small and fragile amid the advanced technology of the collective. The outer hull is composed primarily of titanium alloys and carbon composites, Elara reported as she led Vrexel through the initial examination. Rudimentary by our standards, but efficient given their technological limitations. Vrexel circled the human vessel, noting the scorch marks along its hull, the result of countless micrometeor impacts and the strain of faster-than-light travel. And the propulsion system. A basic fusion drive coupled with what appears to be a first-generation warp field generator. They've only recently mastered the manipulation of subspace. Weapons. Photon torpedoes. Essentially nuclear warheads enhanced with antimatter. Directed energy weapons as well, though their power output is minimal compared to our standard armaments. Vrexel nodded, increasingly confident in his assessment of these humans. They were exactly as he had expected, a young, technologically immature species that had ventured beyond their capabilities. The Council would likely vote to establish a monitoring outpost near their home system, perhaps initiate limited contact in another century or two when they had advanced sufficiently. And the crew? He asked. 27 individuals. They resisted capture, as expected. 3 were injured in the process. All are now contained in the holding cells. Have you begun interrogation? Not yet, High Commander. We were awaiting your authorization. Vrexel waved a dismissive limb. Proceed with standard protocols. I want to know everything about their civilization. Technological capabilities, social structures, military strength. Be thorough. There is one other matter, High Commander, Elara said, her tone shifting slightly. During our initial scan of their vessel, we detected unusual energy signatures emanating from several devices on board. They don't match any known technology in our database. This caught Vrexel's attention. Unidentified technology. From a pre-collective species. Yes, High Commander. The analysis team is puzzled. Some of the components seem to operate on principles that contradict our understanding of particle physics. Vrexel's mandibles twitched with interest. Show me. The laboratory bay of the Immutable Truth was filled with components extracted from the human vessel. Collective scientists moved among the parts, scanning, analyzing, occasionally conferring in hushed tones. Elara led Vrexel to a sealed containment chamber in the center of the room. Inside was what appeared to be a cylindrical device approximately 1 meter in length. It hummed softly, emitting a faint blue glow. This was found in their engineering section, Elara explained. It appears to be some form of power regulator, but its function is unlike anything we've encountered. Vrexel studied the device through the containment field. What makes it unique? It manipulates quantum fields in a way that should be impossible given their level of technological development. The energy efficiency is remarkable. Another scientist approached, this one a Malosian with the characteristic silver skin of his species. High Commander, we've completed our analysis of their navigational systems. You should see this. He handed Vrexel a datapad. The High Commander's eyes narrowed as he reviewed the information. "This can't be accurate," he said. "We've verified it 3 times. The Melosian insisted. Their star charts contained detailed information about sectors beyond their home system that they couldn't possibly have explored themselves." "How?" Vrexel demanded. "We don't know. Either they've developed long-range scanning technology far beyond what their other systems would suggest, or what? Or they've encountered and communicated with other species unknown to the collective." Vrexel handed the data pad back, his mind racing. "Increase security around the human vessel and double the guards on the prisoners. I want every component of their ship analyzed down to the molecular level." As the scientist hurried to comply, Vrexel turned back to the containment chamber, regarding the softly humming device with new interest and the first faint stirrings of concern. Commander Chen winced as the alien probe withdrew from her mind. The interrogation had been invasive but not particularly painful, more disorienting than anything else. She had the impression that her captors were being careful not to cause permanent damage. "Your cooperation is appreciated," said the tall, insectoid alien through some kind of translation device. "It makes this process less uncomfortable." Chen fixed her gaze on the creature's multifaceted eyes. "I've told you everything I can about our peaceful intentions. We're explorers, not invaders." "Yes, so you've said," the alien replied. "Yet your vessel carries weapons capable of destroying small moons." "Defensive measures only," Chen insisted. "Space is dangerous. We've learned that lesson the hard way." The alien, who had introduced itself as Alara, made a gesture that Chen couldn't interpret. "Your species is an anomaly, Commander Chen. You possess technology that should be beyond your capabilities, yet other aspects of your development are primitive." Chen maintained her composure, though internally she was cataloging every detail about her captors. If any of the Pathfinder's crew survived to return to Earth, this information would be crucial. "Perhaps you're not as advanced as you think," she suggested. Ilara's reaction was unreadable. "Perhaps, or perhaps there is more to humanity than we initially assessed. The device we found in your engineering section, for instance, the quantum field regulator. How did your species develop such technology?" Chen knew exactly what Ilara was referring to, the XK7 prototype that the Pathfinder had been secretly testing. It represented a breakthrough in energy management that Earth's best scientists had only recently achieved. That these aliens were so interested in it suggested they recognized its significance. "Trial and error," Chen replied carefully. "We're resourceful." "Indeed," Allura said. "And the encrypted data core we found hidden beneath your command center. What does it contain?" Chen's heart skipped a beat. The black box, Earth's insurance policy. If the aliens had found it but couldn't access its contents, that was something. At least. Ship's logs, personnel records. Nothing that would interest an advanced civilization like yours. Elara moved closer, her alien features impossible to read. "You're not telling the complete truth, Commander Chen. But that's to be expected. Protection of information is a survival trait common to all intelligent species." The door to the interrogation chamber slid open, and another alien entered, this one larger, with a more intimidating presence. Chen recognized him as the commander she had glimpsed earlier. "High Commander," Elara acknowledged. "I was just finishing the initial questioning." The High Commander ignored her, his attention fixed on Chen. "The device in your engineering section," he said without preamble. "It bears striking similarities to technology developed by the Vaxteri, a species that vanished from this galaxy over 10,000 years ago." Chen kept her expression neutral, though her mind was racing. She had no idea what the High Commander was talking about, but she recognized an accusation when she heard one. "I'm not familiar with the species you mentioned," she said truthfully. "No. Then perhaps you can explain how a primitive race like yours developed technology that eludes even the collective's most brilliant minds. As I told your colleague, humans are resourceful. We solve problems." The High Commander's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation. Chen guessed. You will tell us the truth, human, one way or another. He turned to Elora. Prepare the deep scan. I want to know everything in her mind, regardless of the consequences. As the aliens departed, leaving Chen alone in the interrogation chamber, she closed her eyes and focused on her breathing. The Pathfinder had been carrying more than just an exploration team. It had been a test, a careful probe into unknown space with Earth's latest technological advances. And based on the aliens' reaction, humanity had just become a much bigger player in galactic affairs than anyone back home could have anticipated. The analysis team worked through the night cycle, dismantling and examining every component of the human vessel. With each new discovery, the mood in the laboratory grew more tense. This makes no sense, one of the scientists muttered, studying a fragment of the ship's communication array. The basic technology is crude, yet these specific components, they're operating on principles that contradict themselves. Elora moved between the various stations, collecting reports and growing increasingly troubled. The humans' technology was a puzzle with pieces that didn't fit together, as if different parts of their development had occurred at wildly different rates. High Commander, she said, finding Vrexel examining the ship's weapon systems, I believe we need to reassess our understanding of this species. Vrexel looked up, his mandibles tight against his face. I've reached the same conclusion. These weapons, they're designed to appear less advanced than they actually are. The power cores are deliberately limited. You think they're hiding their true capabilities. I think, Vrexel said slowly, that we may have made a serious miscalculation. An alarm suddenly blared through the laboratory. Red lights flashed along the walls. Security breach in detention level 3. A voice announced over the communication system. All security personnel respond immediately. Vrexel and Elora exchanged glances. The humans, Elora said. Impossible, Vrexel replied. They're contained in our most secure cells. But as they rushed from the laboratory, both knew that the impossible had somehow become reality. The humans were fighting back. And the collective was about to learn exactly what they were dealing with. The revelation and aftermath. Alarms blared throughout the immutable truth as Vrexel and Elora raced toward the detention level. The corridors were filled with security personnel, their weapons drawn as they converged on the source of the disturbance. How could this happen? Vrexel demanded as they ran. The cells are designed to contain species far more physically powerful than humans. Unknown, High Commander, Elora replied, her voice tight with concern. But I'm receiving reports that 3 of the humans have already escaped containment. They arrived at the detention level to find chaos. 2 security officers lay unconscious near the entrance, while others were engaged in a firefight down the main corridor. Energy weapons flashed, illuminating the scene in sporadic bursts of light. Status report. Vrexel commanded, pulling a senior security officer aside. The humans breached the cell locks using some kind of electromagnetic pulse, the officer explained hastily. They've armed themselves with our own weapons and are attempting to reach the landing bay. How many? 5 escaped initially. We've recaptured 2, but the others, including their commander, are still at large. Vrexel's mandibles clicked in agitation. Seal all access points to the landing bay and engineering sections. Deploy stun fields throughout the adjacent corridors. I want them contained, not killed. As the security officer hurried to comply, Elora studied the data flowing across her portable terminal. High Commander, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures moving through the ship's maintenance conduits. It appears the humans are using some form of technology to mask their life signs. Impossible, Vrexel said, but the word was beginning to lose meaning. Those conduits are barely large enough for a Melosian child. Nevertheless, that's where they are, Elora insisted, pointing to the schematics on her screen. And they're moving directly toward the analysis laboratory. Vrexel's eyes widened in realization. They're after their ship's components, the ones we couldn't identify, or the encrypted data core, Elara added. Redirect security teams to the laboratory immediately, Vrexel ordered, and send a full containment unit to the human vessel. They may attempt to reach it. As the orders were relayed, Vrexel turned to Elara, his voice lowered. There's something else at work here. These humans, they're not behaving like a species encountering advanced technology for the first time. They're too prepared. Elara nodded slowly. I've had the same thought. Their responses during interrogation were measured, as if they were following established protocols for this exact scenario. Which means either they've encountered other advanced species before, or they've been anticipating first contact for some time. Elara finished, and have trained extensively for it. The implications hung in the air between them. If humans had been preparing for interstellar contact, preparing their military, their technology, their strategies, then the collective's assumptions about this young species were fundamentally flawed. We need to complete the analysis of their technology, Vrexel decided. Immediately. Before they. Another alarm cut him off, this one accompanied by a deep rumble that vibrated through the deck plates beneath their feet. What now? Vrexel demanded. Elara's eyes widened as she checked her terminal. Explosion in the analysis laboratory. Massive damage reported. The humans. Unknown, but probable. Vrexel's mandibles clicked rapidly in agitation. They're destroying the evidence. Their own technology. They'd rather we didn't understand it. High Commander, a communication officer interrupted. We're detecting multiple vessels approaching at high speed. They appeared suddenly at the edge of our sensor range. Impossible, Vrexel said for the third time that day. Our sensors can detect ships approaching from half a light year away. These vessels, they didn't approach conventionally, the officer said, his voice strained. They simply appeared. Vrexel and Elara exchanged alarmed glances. Instantaneous transportation across vast distances. The technology required would be beyond even the collective's capabilities. Show me, Vrexel ordered. The nearest view screen flickered to life, displaying a tactical overview of the surrounding space. Sure enough, 7 vessels had appeared where none had been moments before. They were arrayed in a formation that even Vrexel, a military commander with centuries of experience, recognized as both defensive and threatening. Configuration, he demanded. Unknown design, the officer replied. But they're heavily armed. Energy signatures suggest weapon systems far more advanced than the exploration vessel we captured. They're hailing us, another officer reported. Vrexel straightened his posture, his mind racing. This situation had escalated beyond anything he had anticipated. A supposedly primitive species had not only broken free from the collective's most secure detention cells, but had also apparently summoned reinforcements capable of appearing without warning at the edge of a secure sector. Open a channel, he ordered. The view screen shifted to display the interior of what was clearly a military vessel's command center. In the center stood a human, female, like Commander Chen, but older, with silver-streaked hair and a uniform adorned with insignia that Vrexel assumed denoted high rank. This is Fleet Admiral Helena Reyes of the United Earth Defense Force, the human said without preamble. You are holding an Earth vessel and its crew against their will. Return them immediately or face the consequences. Vrexel stepped forward, drawing himself up to his full impressive height. I am High Commander Vrexel of the Collective. Your vessel violated our territory and was detained for inspection, as is our right under collective law. We recognize no such law, Admiral Reyes replied coldly. Our vessel was on a peaceful exploration mission in uncharted space. Your actions constitute an act of aggression against Earth. Uncharted. Vrexel's mandibles clicked in disbelief. This sector has been under collective control for millennia. Your intrusion was either deliberate or the result of gross navigational error. I won't debate territorial claims with you, Commander. Return our people and their ship, intact within the next 15 of your time units, or we will take action to recover them ourselves." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving Vrexel staring at the tactical display where the 7 human vessels maintained their threatening formation. "Analysis," he demanded. Illara had been scanning the human ships throughout the exchange. "Their technology is inconsistent with our understanding of human capabilities. These vessels appear to utilize propulsion systems similar to the advanced components we found on the exploration ship. Weapons. Difficult to assess precisely, but preliminary scans suggest they could cause significant damage to the immutable truth." Vrexel absorbed this information in silence. The situation had deteriorated beyond his worst expectations. What had begun as a routine examination of a primitive species vessel had become a potential military confrontation with an adversary whose capabilities remained dangerously unknown. "High Commander," Illara said quietly, "there's something else you should see." The analysis team managed to partially decrypt some of the data from the human vessel before the laboratory was damaged. She handed him a datapad. Vrexel read the information displayed there, his amber eyes widening with each line. "Is this accurate?" he asked, his voice barely audible. "The data appears genuine," Illara confirmed. "If it's to be believed, the humans have been preparing." Preparing was an understatement. According to the decrypted files, humanity had been systematically developing its technology, military, and space exploration capabilities for one specific purpose: to ensure their survival in a galaxy they had always assumed contained other, possibly hostile, civilizations. They had been arming themselves, training, building fleets that were kept hidden from casual observation. The exploration vessel they had captured was merely the public face of a species that had devoted significant resources to ensuring they would never be conquered or subjugated. And now Vrexel had provided them with the very provocation they had been preparing for. Commander Chen moved silently through the maintenance conduits of the alien vessel, Lieutenant Kim and Engineer Piddle following close behind. The escape had gone better than expected. The alien security measures, while advanced, had specific weaknesses that their training had prepared them to exploit. "Status," she whispered into her communicator. "Package secured," came the reply from Lieutenant Rodriguez, another member of her team who had separated from them earlier. "En route to Rendezvous Point Alpha." The diversion. "In place. Ready on your mark." Chen nodded to herself. "Execute." Moments later, they felt the distant rumble of an explosion somewhere deep in the ship. The diversion would buy them precious minutes, time they needed to reach their ultimate objective. "This way," she directed, consulting the small holographic map they had compiled during their captivity. The aliens had underestimated human observational skills, allowing Chen and her team to map significant portions of the ship during their transfer from the detention cells to the interrogation chambers. They emerged from the conduit into a dimly lit corridor. According to their makeshift map, they were now just 2 sections away from the massive holding bay where the Pathfinder was being kept. "Commander," Kim whispered urgently, "company approaching." They pressed themselves against the wall as a group of alien security officers rushed past the adjacent corridor, apparently responding to the diversion. Once they had passed, Chen gave the signal to move forward. "Almost there," she encouraged her team. "Once we reach the ship, we initiate Protocol Omega." Protocol Omega was a last resort measure that none of them had ever expected to implement. It involved the complete destruction of the Pathfinder to prevent its technology from falling into alien hands. The loss of the ship would be devastating, but the protection of Earth's technological secrets was paramount. As they approached the final security checkpoint before the holding bay, Chen heard the distinctive sound of an alarm activating. Their presence had been detected. "Run," she ordered, abandoning stealth for speed. They sprinted toward the holding bay doors, energy weapons firing behind them as alien security forces gave chase. Lieutenant Kim was hit in the shoulder, the energy burst sending him sprawling, but Paddle grabbed him and kept moving. The massive doors to the holding bay began to close in front of them. "We're not going to make it," Patel gasped. "Yes, we are," Chen replied grimly, raising her stolen alien weapon and firing at the door mechanism. The control panel exploded in a shower of sparks, halting the door's progress with just enough space for them to slide through. They emerged into the vast holding bay and saw the Pathfinder across the open space, surrounded by alien researchers and equipment. The ship looked intact, though various panels had been removed from its hull, exposing the internal systems. "There," Chen pointed. "We need tow." She never finished the sentence. A wave of energy washed over them, and Chen felt her muscles seize. She collapsed to the deck, paralyzed but conscious. From the corner of her eye, she could see Kim and Patil similarly immobilized. High Commander Vrexel stepped into view, flanked by several security officers and the alien scientist who had interrogated Chen earlier. "A commendable effort, Commander Chen," Vrexel said, his translated voice almost respectful, but ultimately futile. Chen couldn't respond, her jaw locked by the paralysis field, but her eyes burned with defiance. "Your reinforcements have arrived," Vrexel continued, surprising her. "Your Fleet Admiral Reyes seems quite determined to recover you and your vessel." If Chen could have shown expression, she would have smiled. The contingency plan had worked. The Pathfinder had been equipped with a quantum entanglement communicator, technology that the aliens had apparently failed to identify or understand. When the ship was captured, the communicator had sent an instantaneous alert to Earth Command, bypassing conventional communication methods that could be blocked or intercepted. "What I find most interesting," Vrexel said, crouching down to look directly into Chen's eyes, "is that your species was prepared for this encounter. Your technology, your training, your protocols, all designed for a scenario that by all rights, a young species like yours should never have anticipated." He stood again, mandibles clicking thoughtfully. "The collective has existed for over 50,000 of your years, Commander. In that time, we have encountered hundreds of species making their first tentative steps into the void. None, not one, has ever been prepared as yours is. It raises questions." The paralysis field weakened slightly, allowing Chen to speak, though she still couldn't move. "Perhaps you're not as unique as you thought," she managed to say. "Perhaps not," Vrexel acknowledged. "But I suspect there's more to humanity than meets the eye. Your vessel contains technology that shouldn't exist given your species' development timeline. Your people have training and protocols for situations they should never have expected to face. And now ships appear at the edge of our territory using propulsion methods that defy our understanding." He gestured to the alien scientist. "Alara," Chen remembered. "We've decrypted portions of your secured data core," Alara said. "Enough to understand that humanity has been preparing for interstellar contact, possibly hostile contact, for generations. Your public space program is merely a facade for a much more extensive military and exploration initiative." Chen remained silent. There was nothing to say. The aliens had discovered the truth, or at least part of it. "What fascinates me," Vrexel continued, "is why. Why would a young species, barely united under a single government, devote such resources to preparing for a threat they had no evidence existed?" Chen met his gaze steadily. "Survival." Vrexel waited for her to elaborate, but she remained silent. The truth, that humanity had been contacted centuries ago by a dying alien whose ship had crashed on Earth, warning them of the dangers that lurked among the stars, was Earth's most closely guarded secret. The subsequent centuries of careful, hidden preparation had been humanity's response to that warning. "Your admiral has demanded your return," Vrexel said finally. "She's given us an ultimatum. And I find myself in an unusual position, Commander Chen. The collective does not typically negotiate with lesser species, but your people have demonstrated capabilities that suggest you may not be as lesser as we initially believed." A new alarm sounded, this one different from the security alerts they had heard earlier. High Commander, one of the security officers reported urgently. The human vessels are moving. They've taken up positions surrounding the immutable truth. Vrexel's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of stress. Chen guessed. It seems your admiral grows impatient, he said. She's not known for her patience, Chen replied. Then perhaps we should conclude this matter before it escalates further. Vrexel turned to Elora. Prepare the human vessel for departure. Return any components that can be reattached quickly. Elora looked startled. High Commander, the Council. The Council is not here, Vrexel interrupted. And they did not anticipate this situation. I will take full responsibility for my decision. He turned back to Chen. Your people will be returned to you, Commander. Your vessel as well, though I'm afraid some of its components have been irreparably analyzed. Why the change of heart? Chen asked, suspicious. Vrexel regarded her thoughtfully. Let's call it a reassessment of priorities. The collective has existed for millennia by carefully choosing its battles. Your species presents unusual challenges and unusual opportunities. The paralysis field was deactivated, and Chen struggled to her feet, helped by Kim and Pato. This isn't over, she warned. No, Vrexel agreed. I suspect it's merely the beginning of a very long and complicated relationship between our peoples. But for now, it's in everyone's interest to avoid unnecessary conflict. 2 hours later, Commander Chen stood on the bridge of the Pathfinder, watching as the massive alien vessel, the immutable truth she had learned, receded into the distance. The ship had been damaged during the alien's examination, but its core systems were operational. More importantly, the crew had been returned unharmed, if shaken by the experience. The Pathfinder was now surrounded by its escort. 7 vessels of the Earth Defense Force's elite Phantom Fleet, ships that had been kept secret from public knowledge, designed specifically for encounters like this one. Commander, Lieutenant Kim said from his station, Admiral Rice is hailing us. Chen nodded. On screen. Admiral Rice appeared on the view screen, her expression stern but relieved. Commander Chen, it's good to see you intact. Status report. The ship is damaged but functional, Admiral. All crew accounted for. The aliens, they call themselves the Collective, conducted an extensive analysis of our systems. They seemed particularly interested in the quantum regulator and the encrypted data core. Were they able to access the core? Partially, according to their commander. They know we've been preparing for contact, but I don't believe they discovered the full extent of our preparations or the reason behind them. Admiral Rice nodded solemnly. Small mercies. What's your assessment of this collective? Chen considered the question carefully. They're advanced, arrogant, and set in their ways. They've been the dominant power in this region for thousands of years, and they're not accustomed to being challenged. But they're also pragmatic. Their commander chose to release us rather than risk open conflict. Because he wasn't sure they would win, Rice surmised. I believe so, yes. They underestimated us initially, but they learned quickly. They know we're more advanced than we appear, and that uncertainty made them cautious. Rice leaned forward. And what did you learn about them, Commander? Chen smiled.